There is a bit of a misconception amongst the YouTube filmmaking community that if you just acquire the right gear, that your passion project or perhaps even your career will have tapped into some previously unachievable potential. And in this video, I want to share my take on this dynamic and also explain why I think this camera, the Sony FX30, might be the solution to this issue. Now, I'm not trying to say that this specific camera is going to be the one to solve all your problems, and then if you don't already own it, you should go out and spend your money on it. But what I am trying to say is that Sony's entry-level FX camera, the FX30, is a really good investment and a pretty affordable one as well. And it's also such a good investment that I think that you could probably stop lusting after other cameras for a long, long time. All right, let's get into it. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Riley, and I'm a filmmaker who's produced documentaries on multiple continents around the world using the gear that I talk about here on this channel. So if you're someone who's into making documentaries or films with small crews, then you're in the right place. Consider subscribing and following along. All right, back to the video. I think that there's sort of a spectrum within the filmmaking and YouTube landscape. On one end, we'll put people that I'll call hobbyists. This is a passion of theirs, but they're not making any money. And on the other end, there are people who are paying all of their bills with video production and filmmaking. And somewhere in the middle, there's like a side hustle thing where it's your passion and you're making a little bit of money and you may or may not be considering scaling that business up into something more sustainable and full-time. Now, to be clear, I want to say that I don't think there's anything wrong with falling anywhere on this spectrum. As someone who has been all over the spectrum, I can attest to the fact that you can not make any money from your camera and still capture some really beautiful images and tell some meaningful stories and be really creatively fulfilled while also not having to worry about burning out with your camera. But you could also be someone who is loving it and trying to turn it into a full-time thing, and that's okay too. And obviously, if you are full-time with video production and filmmaking, that's awesome as well. What I'm trying to get at is that I think that the FX30 is something that is a good investment no matter where you fall on the spectrum. The FX30 is priced at a point where most serious hobbyists can consider making the investment, and it's also something that is so good with such a good image and is so rich with features that pretty much every single professional could utilize it. On this YouTube channel, I talk a lot about Sony cameras, and I get comments all the time asking me if the FX30 is good enough to shoot that person's next project on, or if they should spend the money and upgrade to the FX3 or something with a full frame camera. And my answer is pretty much always the same, that unless you need the low light capabilities of the FX3, chances are that the FX30 is going to be just as good as the 3 or something else. A well-lit scene on the FX30 is going to look just as good as a well-lit scene on pretty much every other camera. And I'm speaking from experience because one of my other cameras is a Red Komodo, and the FX30 is often one that I use alongside it because both of the images are so good that I can confidently cut them together, and I'm pretty positive that the viewer at the end of the day is not going to know which one was which. So I think I'm honestly just making this video for myself in what I wish I would have heard 5 or 10 years ago, because I think that if you're someone who owns an FX30 or a camera similar to this one and you feel like kind of stuck and you are wondering if spending more money and upgrading the camera body to something a little bit better is gonna kind of help you get over the hump and help you advance your career or take your project to the next level, then I'm here to tell you, don't do that. Don't spend the money and kind of waste it on that. I think that so many of us kind of feel like stuck and like dissatisfied with where our projects are and what we're shooting. And there's just this sort of kind of lie out there that if you spend more money and you make the next kind of marginal incremental upgrade, that, you know, eventually you can kind of like buy your way into good filmmaking and good storytelling. And as someone who's made mistakes in their career buying different camera bodies that I didn't need, or buying just gear in general that I didn't need, that wasn't going to help me. It wasn't going to be smart in my kind of passion projects or smart in my business, then hear me say that you don't need to make that incremental upgrade, especially to your camera body. And I mean, you can if you want, like if you really want to, and like I'm not going to shame you, like go for it. I like cameras just as much as the next guy. I'm not going to shame you for it, but don't do it if you feel like buying that camera is going to help like level up your project just a little bit more. Like the thing that's going to help you level up your project a little bit more is actually like going out and doing it, and maybe taking some of the money that you would have spent going from like the FX30 to like an FX3 or some equivalent, taking that money and like investing it into the project. If you can do that and you can like bring on a larger crew, or take that money and like go to a better location, spend some extra time and prep, like those are the things that are going to help you get to the next step in your journey. But as far as cameras are concerned, like the FX30 is an awesome camera and an awesome investment, and it's something that I feel like I'm going to use for years to come, because it was something that was pretty affordable to acquire. It's paid itself off, and the image is so good that I feel like I can just cut it in with pretty much any other camera. So if you have an FX30 or something similar, then I would say just go out and shoot, because that camera is going to give you an image worthy of the story that you're trying to tell. And I can't wait to see the stories that you're telling. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.